Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Tea Time with TeaCup Entrepreneurs. I'm Steph Pellish, your hostess here at Tea Time. And today I am so excited to have Erika Letitia of Erika Letitia Photography with us today. Joining us, she is one of our Teacup members and has done photography for a few of our events. And I'm so excited to welcome her here for this conversation today. So, welcome, Erika.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So we just like to dive in around here and find out, how did you become an entrepreneur? How did
Oh
you
my
get into
goodness.
photography? Just dive right in.
Sure. Well, I've been in love with photography since I was 8 years old. So I feel really grateful that I got to, I always wanted to be a photographer. And so I went to school with a lot of people with a similar passion, but it's hard to stay in that line of business because there's so much competition. And I feel like super grateful that I've been able to use this medium that I've loved my entire life, pretty much my entire life,
Yeah.
as a way to connect with people, to obviously make a living, and I just find it to be one of the most intimate forms of connecting with people. Whether it's, on like a family photo shoot or boudoir or even corporate, I really get to connect and understand people through photography. So I feel super grateful that I get to do that. And yeah.
Yeah, so how did you get a camera in your hand at 8 years old?
Um, I remember my parents buying me, it was like 120 film camera. So it was so cute. Like the film looked like a pair of glasses. It was like it like
Yes.
started here,
Yeah.
went across, and then
Yep.
started here. And so it was like this long, narrow pink camera. And what's really funny is I had this obsession with photography, but I didn't, no one ever explained the process to me. So they gave me this camera and gave me all this film and taught me how to load it, taught me how to take the pictures, taught me how to unload it, but then never told me what to do with the film. So I'd take a bunch of pictures, take the film out, throw it away. Take a bunch of pictures, take the film out, throw it away.
No.
Well,
Oh my
any
God.
of those first, the fact that I'm able to provide this service is a miracle, considering that's those are my roots, is throwing
Oh
away.
my gosh. First, I definitely had a Kodak camera that I'm
Yeah,
envisioning had the same film.
yeah,
But also the fact that you didn't know that
didn't know.
you could then do something with that, get
Yeah,
those
I was eight.
pictures. I'm so sad for
So
your 8-year-old Erica. So what was it like to then realize that there was actually an outcome from them?
I was so sad. Like I didn't understand where they'd come from. I thought some way, somehow I'd still eventually get to see them because I was 8. No one explained it to me. So when my parents were like, "Where is all the film? Like we've given you like 5 or 6 rolls of film. Where is it?" And I'm like, "I threw it away. Like I'm waiting for my pictures." And they're like, "No, that's not how this works." And I was so sad because I remember taking pictures of me laying on the floor and my cousins jumping over me from couch to couch. Like they would have been terrible
You
pictures,
were
but in my
stylizing pictures
no one's
at
ever done
8,
anything like this before. So, and
and they
then,
hadn't.
yeah, exactly. And then once I learned and I went to like middle school and high school and was able to get a fully manual camera, like manual focus, manual exposure, like everything. I got to practice on my younger sisters. So I'm like 8 and 13 years older than my sisters. So they were really little and I got to practice photographing them. And that was really fun. I still have a lot of those photos. I actually have them here somewhere, but I'd be missing from the screen too long to go find them.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so essentially the second you got a camera, you were
Photographing
stylizing it,
people.
figuring it out, thinking
Yeah.
creatively. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I
I
just
would do it
wanted
with
to
my
take
one
the
sister.
pictures and then
Oh
get them
yeah.
back as soon as possible because they always took forever, or you could pay extra
Oh yeah.
to get them back. And
Oh
that
yeah.
like
But then I
instant
got to learn how
gratification.
to develop them myself, which
Yeah.
was really fun. Yeah. So I miss darkroom photography, but it's expensive. I can't do it anymore. But
Maybe one day again.
maybe one day I'll have a dark room again.
So
But
how did you become an entrepreneur? Was that always on, like, I know many photographers go out on their own, but like you said, there is a lot of competition, so positioning yourself can be a little bit tricky. Was it something that you just kind of felt you needed to do as a photographer, or was it just something that entrepreneurship kind of drew you and it just
Yeah.
naturally was meant to be?
It's actually an interesting story. So I currently, so I'm an entrepreneur of Erika Letitia Photography, but I also work as the primary solo boudoir photographer for Alabak Photography. So I have these two very different worlds, balancing each other. But before I started working for Alabak Photography, I was working for someone else, and her business had gone from a lot of weddings and portraits to very corporate. And I loved it. Like I absolutely loved it. And there was one job in particular that I absolutely loved, but I was traveling really far, 45 to an hour minute drive, like twice a day was just wearing me out. And I had two kids. And so I was able to find a photography studio closer, and I got to really play around with like empowering women, empowering couples. And so that was like a whole new world for me. So I got to like flex my photography muscles like in even more directions, right? But I still just loved the corporate stuff. And there was one job in particular that I had at that old studio that, and this was like such a beautiful honor for me. They loved me so much that they left that studio and asked me like to still photograph for them.
Yeah.
And it's a huge, huge like annual business meeting for like the National Board of Architectural Registration. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm starting my own corporate business. And so yeah, so that was like my one job. And I was like, I need to figure out how to do more than just this one job. I can't just build my entire business around this 1 week long, once a year job.
Yeah. That's a hobby or a
Yeah, like it needs to be something real. I would love more opportunities like that because I get to travel every year for this. This year I'm going to Sedona, I'm going to Sedona for a few days and then the rest of it's in Scottsdale. Um,
amazing.
yeah, but that's where I joined Teacup because I just really wanted to be around uh, one, women. I find being in a group of women incredibly empowering, incredibly supportive, and very seen. And then so not just a women's group, but a women's group surrounded around entrepreneurship and like really, supporting one another, giving advice to one another, and just yeah. So Teacup has been such a beautiful community to help give me ideas and help me really grow. So still small, but I've because of it I've gotten like more jobs. I've gotten some some inspiration, a little bit of confidence and bravery to reach out into new avenues that have become, fruitful for me. So I'm
Yeah,
just
I
very
love
grateful
that.
for the
I love
community. Yeah.
Yeah, so talk us through. I know you did our most recent She Who Leads event. You did all the photography from that, which is gorgeous. If you
Thank
are
you.
following us on social, you can go check out our photography from that in March. But what is the process like when somebody calls and says, we have an event? Like, can you walk us through what
Yeah.
that looks like to work with someone like a photographer for that?
Yeah, definitely. So So really, my goal when I have these kind of discovery calls, discovery conversations with potential clients is to really understand, like, let's say in the scope of being an event, like the She Who Leads event, I really want to know like what the format is, what it's about, what's important to relay to your audience, like who is your audience, where are these photos going to be used, like so it really
Yeah,
helps me understand what's important because I could get all these amazing, candids of people reacting to a speaker, but if I don't also focus on the speaker that maybe those photos are really important, then I'm going to miss something. So really just understanding the purpose of the event, the purpose of the images, the purpose of the message. Yeah, and just understanding who you are and
yeah,
who the speakers are and stuff like that because it's really important that we really put the image out there that you're looking for.
yeah,
And it's not so different with like headshots, you still are trying to communicate something through these portraits on a website or LinkedIn or something like that. So
yeah. And I know too, even as my business has evolved and as I've gotten more clarity and more direction, I see too how my pictures also need to evolve. Whereas when I first started and I did my first, we'll call it a branding shoot, it was a branding shoot, but it was just let's take some pictures.
Hmm.
And now I know that when I have my next branding shoot, like I have ideas of what I'm specifically posting, what I specifically need, what I want my audience to see and feel from these pictures. And so I love those conversations because it gives more guidance and it then gives me more photos to use intentionally and not just
Yeah.
like, here I am again.
Yeah. Yeah. Your first one, I know I really wanted to capture your just like your warmth and approachability and just connectedness. So, but yeah, I think the more people understand themselves too, the more guided the session
Yeah.
can be,
Yeah.
which is
Well, and
great.
I was also just to be clear, I was referring to ones that I did like a few years ago
Oh,
prior
okay.
to meeting you. So I
That's
just want to,
okay. I was just thinking because
yeah,
we didn't have we did it after one of the meetings. So I
yeah,
was yeah.
yeah.
So it was like a little less formal than what I try to provide.
No, but and it's just thinking too, like through different events, like why would somebody need photos from events? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I could just use my phone. And then
Yeah.
I go back and look at the pictures from my phone and I'm like, oh. Well, there's a whole lot of white space, or that's off to the side, or that face isn't really clear. And so I know I've seen the value in having somebody come take photos. Like, is that something that you need to, I'm going to say, sell and market? Why it's important to have a photographer there versus just using people's cell phones because it is convenient and
Yeah.
obviously much cheaper to use my cell phone than to find a photographer. So can you talk about the value that's there?
Well, I mean, you kind of said a lot of it. I mean, there is a lot of limited, like, it doesn't matter how good your lenses are, what new thing. Like, I have a really, really good iPhone, and it's great for taking photos of like outside when things are perfectly lit in every direction. It's completely different when you're in a room with like fluorescent or some kind of ambient light, and you have somebody reacting to something that like really moved them, like you don't like the proper lighting isn't there to really capture the emotion or capture that moment, or you know it's just
It
there's so
also,
much, it's so limited with a phone,
yeah,
you
I was
know.
going to say, it also takes me out of the moment. And I
That
also
too.
have to remember to take the photos. And
Yeah,
then if I'm remembering to take the photos, I'm probably not in them either.
if you're truly engaged in what's happening around you, you're not gonna remember to pull your phone out.
Yeah. Well, and
And
it's
then
also rude too.
but then there's a thing with like it can be expensive to hire a photographer for like your kid's birthday party, and but that said, you there's like a scientifically proven thing, like you remember these moments a lot less when you're experiencing them through your phone versus just being present.
Yeah.
And so if you're in this empowering She Who Leads event where you have this speaker who is just completely moving you, if you're busy taking photos, you're not absorbing that information and really just sitting with it quite the same way as if you had your phone down and just were present. And I think
Yeah.
it's really easy for us to get pulled out of being present because we have our cell phones. And so that's a really, thank you for bringing that up because that is a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I know being in a group of women too, many of them become self-conscious about getting their picture taken. And I know with your boudoir work, that's a huge piece for you, but I'd love for you to talk about that. Like talk about that self-consciousness, talk about not wanting to be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always in front of the camera and I'm like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But that's not, especially for women, but that's not generally the feel that women have. And so how do you work through that?
I mean, it depends on who it is. So there might just be guests at an event that are feeling self-conscious, like they might not even necessarily vocalize it, but there's something really powerful about being captured in a moment that you would never normally see. And this happens with boudoir as well. Like it's obviously different expressions, different states of emotion, but you don't have a mirror in front of you at every single moment where you're like your best
Thank
emotions
goodness.
peak, right? Well, but like
Right.
if you say like I remember when at the She Who Leads event, everyone was holding hands and I started to tear up. And I was looking at so many women in that room and they were just glowing. And they like, and what other opportunities would they be able to like pop a set? Like, there's no selfie that's going to capture that. You know
I
what I
have
mean?
full body chills from that because yes.
There's a state of emotion you don't ever get to see. You're seeing yourself completely different. And the same thing happens in boudoir. Like when you are just like in this moment of like vulnerability, you're not looking at yourself in the mirror. Or when we do couples boudoir, like you don't know the faces you make when your partner just makes you feel comfortable and relaxed and vulnerable and safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So these are facial expressions, body language, and states of emotion you don't ever get to see in yourself because usually if someone's just taking a group photo, you're just you usually people know their pose and their smile and they go into it and that's
Get
the
my
only
left
way.
side, get my right
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. So when we get to open that up and see and have people see themselves, even just sitting in a really empowering, meeting, listening to something that's inspiring them is an expression they've never seen on themselves before.
I love this so much. I think there's such like good wisdom in there of we we don't see our authentic selves that way, right? Like even when I can only obviously speak for myself, but even when I'm looking in the mirror, I'm not like I'm maybe doing my makeup or washing my face or whatever it is that I'm doing, but I'm focusing on that and, making faces to get done whatever needs to get done versus really like seeing the emotion or looking at the emotion that I might have thinking about whatever's going on in my mind. And so to capture that emotion, to capture that and then actually seeing it in yourself. I've never considered that. And that's such a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
I wonder,
It's
go ahead.
we show ourselves a very two-dimensional version of who we think we are when we're just looking at ourselves in the mirror. Like even if you're practicing a speech, you might practice a smile, you might practice your pauses, you might practice your calmness, whatever it is. But then when you're standing in front of people and commanding a crowd, which I've watched you do, like there is a totally different version of you than you showed yourself in the mirror practicing a speech. I'm not saying you do that. I'm just making an
No, yeah,
assumption.
absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. And it's always interesting too when I look at, because you're capturing a second and I look at that and I'm like, oh, I was mid word, but you see like the posture or the pose, or you see like the
Power.
confidence that was there, right? Or who knows what the message was, but I'm just thinking about the photos that I have from the event. And
Yeah.
then I also turn around and see the photos from the other side of the women holding hands. And that was something that I was feeling really present in the moment, but I wasn't able to really capture what they were doing because I was holding the space,
Yes.
right? And so when I'm holding the space, I'm missing 90% of maybe even more of what's actually happening inside of that space in order to hold it. And so having those photos, seeing the impact, like there are a few photos that I know, like I love seeing the impact because I wasn't looking, I wasn't attending to that moment. And so to have those is just such a beautiful tribute to the event, to the day.
And to the work that you did to put that together. Like,
Thank you.
like, yeah, it was an incredibly powerful event. And yeah, I'm glad you got to see like the fruits of all this labor and all this hard work and all this passion that you have for bringing women together.
Yeah, so what type of, when I think of photography for events, I think weddings, right? Like that's the first thing that my mind goes to. And so with corporate events, what do those events usually look like? Obviously, I know our event, we had speakers and we had attendees at tables, but what do the events usually, I'm sure you have a variety of them, but what do they look like on your
Yeah,
end?
I mean, it can be like everything's like customizable because everyone's event is different. Like when I shoot for NCARB, it's a day of like workshops, like people working together or listening to a speaker, or there's the big giant meeting where someone's on like this beautifully lit stage and capturing them engaging with a very large crowd of hundreds of people. They also do on-site headshots. They also do like cocktail receptions to bring people like an icebreaker event. And they have a big gala at the end where they do their prom photos. So like theirs is very
Love that.
specific and like a lot of things.
So you've got a lot of things just in that one event.
Oh, the last day with them, which is arguably my favorite day, even though it's like 16 straight hours,
Oh my
because
gosh.
it's like I love like a jam-packed day. I don't know what it is. I just like thrive in that environment.
Mhm.
And then when they do their prom photos, I have my second photographer like taking the pictures and I'm printing them on site, like print so they get like a 5x7. So it's like chaos and I love it. So
Love
that's like what theirs looks like. And I photographed for the National Constitution Center. And so far, I've done it's like they have these America's Town Hall events where they have, either a person or a panel of people coming in to talk about very specific topics. Like they talked about like the 14th Amendment. They had a whole thing about that. And um, I forget what the other one was, but yeah. So that's very much like people on a stage and a crowd of people and just getting the overview, getting tight portraits. And I enjoy it because I get to flex my creativity in a space that isn't necessarily booming with
Yeah, it's probably
being
more static in terms of the action that's happening.
yeah, so I get to kind of flex my creativity in that way to see like what I can do in these spaces. But then the National Constitution Center also hired me. They're having like a Wawa day, like a Wawa hoagie day. I haven't photographed that for them yet, so I have a phone call with her, I think tomorrow to understand what that event looks like. But she said it's
Love
absolutely
that.
chaotic, and I love chaotic. So it all depends on what your needs are, whether it's like a networking event and you really just want people to see people engaging with each other, whether it's an event that has speakers on the stage and you really not only want to capture them, like wonderful portraits of them engaging the crowd, but pictures of people like receiving that information and being in the moment. Um, or if it's like beautiful on location headshots, like we're doing that later today, is going on location and getting instead of like with like a gray or white backdrop, we're going to photograph them in the environment of their office so it
Yeah,
feels more like the place that you're stepping into, and it feels
a little
a little
more
bit more
natural and authentic.
yeah, exactly. So it all depends on what people need.
Yeah, and you do every size event,
Every size.
small events to it sounds like huge events. So that's
Yeah, and carbs
amazing.
probably like 500-600 people. Yeah,
Love that.
I do like 150 headshots during that week
Oh my gosh.
on average. Yeah,
Yeah. So if someone needs a headshot, you've got a ton of experience
a
there
ton,
and you
thousands upon thousands of headshots.
you do them on location and you also have a studio that you use for headshots as well, which is where I came in for my headshots and some of the teacup ladies also did that. So
And
you've
we
got the flexibility.
Yes, we could do outdoor headshots if the weather's nice. We can do indoor with like a very simple background that can be cut out because a lot of times websites need that or something a
Yeah.
little more natural feeling. Like we have beautiful furniture and like some partial brick walls. Like one of yours like has that brick next to you in the pink chair. And so or on location if especially if someone's office is like really, really beautifully done. Like a lot of times there's like a lot of pride in that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's just like people to feel welcome into their space. So
So
yeah.
when would you think for a new business owner or a business owner, when would be a good time to have their photos done? Because again, I feel like so many, and maybe I'm repeating this question again, but so many people are probably like, oh, I'll just do my headshot on my phone and I'll post it on my website until I can afford pictures, but there's
Yeah.
so much that goes into like your brand. There's so much thought that goes into when somebody comes onto their website and is looking. They
Yeah.
want to see those professional photos. So I would assume that getting photos as you're building a website or when you're doing a refresh is really
It's
a
a good
great
time.
time.
Like, those like really lovely selfies are good for like a social media post, like something really personal about yourself. But like if you really want to reach your people, like you need to present the level of like you just need to feel like professional, approachable. People need to really see who they're going to be interacting with and
Yeah.
dealing with and know about you in that way. And it doesn't always have to be this very crisp, clean on a white backdrop headshot. It can be something environmental outside. It can be, something a little bit more casual if that's the
Yeah.
vibe you're going for. It could be
Right.
like
Matching what their business
exactly.
might
But
be.
like you want people to be able to really look at you, look into your eyes in your photo and like really know who you are and get a lot of who you are because there is a lot that can be said in just a single photograph of somebody and who they are. Um and I don't think that that's something to underestimate how much you can say with a single portrait.
No,
Um
absolutely.
yeah. So I think if you're rebranding or you're starting something, I mean, I have levels for everyone, like levels of photography for everyone, like just starting out or someone super established that needs like a whole package of branding images, like I can do all of that. But yeah, I just can't possibly underestimate the weight that a really beautiful portrait can carry for how you reach people and communicate with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I am curious too, before we kind of end our time together, if we had a new entrepreneur that was listening or a woman who's thinking, maybe I want to own my own business. I'm a photographer. Maybe I want to do my own thing. Do you have some
Yeah.
advice that maybe you wish you knew at the beginning or you did know but was really valuable that you would want them to know either at the beginning or just getting started?
I mean, I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned in one of the first teacup meetings that I was in, like something that I gained from that was to never underestimate like your support system.
Yeah.
And like leaning on your support system, whether that, it could just be family or friends, or it's a community like Teacup. Um, like the amount of support I feel has like I came into the first few meetings like feeling really stressed out. Like I didn't know where to go, what to do next. And if it weren't for that support system and that community, I feel like I'd still be as lost as I was like a year ago. Because I knew what I wanted to do. I was just like, where do I go next? I have this
Yeah.
one big job and that's it. What do I do with that? And even just like recently, the have being the spotlight member, I have like a whole list of things to do that are going to just make my business even better. So really just never underestimate your support system and don't feel ashamed to lean on them when you need it.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I appreciate that so much because I recently heard something that talked about you're overwhelmed in your business because you're doing it by yourself.
Yes.
And as a solopreneur, yes, we're doing it by ourselves. We have to do it by ourselves. And having that support, having that community around us helps us to stay regulated. When we're in the ups, we get to celebrate. And when we're in the downs and we want to burn it all to the ground,
Yeah.
remembering that the best decisions are made. We actually talked about this yesterday at a teacup meeting. The best decisions are made when we're regulated. They're not made when we're high and celebrating and like, yes,
Mhm.
things are going great. And they're definitely not made when we're feeling like we want to burn it to the ground. And so having
Yeah.
that support, having other women around us who are doing similar things and are saying, you're going to make it through. You can do this. I'll support you. You still have to do the work, but hey,
Yeah.
I'm doing the work right alongside of you. And so, yes, like that is such a great value. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to hear that you feel that and that that's something that you're gaining from Teacup.
Oh,
And
I mean, I've cried at least two teacup meetings because of feeling like the support system there. Like it brings me to tears. I was
it's
crying
why
at
we
the
needed to start meeting in a closed area because There are sometimes tears at Teacup and good ones
Good
because
ones.
it is,
They're
it's
never like,
vulnerability, it's a safe
yeah,
space, and it's an opportunity to get to the bottom of our stuff sometimes. Ugh,
yes. It's that dig can be rough, but it's a lot less rough when you have a support system for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. When you've got somebody to hold you through those tears. But if
Yeah.
somebody wanted to find you and find out more about Erika Letitia photography and figure out what it would look like to work with you, what it would like, what they would need in terms of photography, or maybe they know but are looking for a photographer, how would they go about finding you?
Sure. Well, I'm at erikaletitia.com. It's ErikaLetitia.com. It's up right now, but after being the Spotlight member, I have a lot of work to do on my website. So don't mind if it's not as informative as it should be. I'm working on it. But you can fill out a form there. My number's there, my email's there. What's really important is that I'm really accessible. So my
Yeah.
email is also Letitia@gmail.com. My Facebook is Erika Letitia. Everything's the same. So you can find me anywhere, reach me anywhere. I can answer any questions. And I
Yeah,
just,
and
yeah,
I'll make sure that everything is linked in the show notes too, so that you can find all of Erica's information in the show notes. You can find more about Teacup in the show notes as well, so that you can come join us and incredible women like Erica and come check out the community that we've got surrounding us and supporting us. So, Erica, thank you so much for your time today. I really value this conversation. And I just think that our conversation today about the empowerment of women inside of photography is one that so many women are going to just hear a different way and really take something from. So, thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
of course. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for the community you've created. I'm very grateful for you.
Well, thank you. You're
Yeah.
welcome. All of the time. All right. We will see you guys next time on our next Tea Time chat. Join us and follow and like us, subscribe, all the things, and watch for our next episode of Tea Time with Teacup Entrepreneurs.